carrying on from the last video, we're going to do this top header bar inside the chat with the name of the people in the chat, the search, and the little drop down. We're just going to make that general header. We're not going to do the full drop down menu and search functions. We're just getting the main UI done for now. So we're going to do that, and along the way I think we're just going to fix again a few little things that need fixing. So if we just press F5 to run the application. One of the things I keep noticing, well, two on this page, you've started the application, you start typing, nothing happens. So we want to focus this email box when it first opens, so that you're by default ready to sign in without having to click. So we'll start with that. If we go to the login page, we've got a text box here. Now there's a few things with focus. There's a focus manager inside WPF, which you could put on, say, this top grid and do like focus manager dot focused element, and then you can do binding to an element name, and you can bind, say, like password text. But what that does is this is a visual, I think it's called visual focus or virtual focus, I can't remember which, and you can see it's like it's made it the focus, or the logical focus, I believe is what they call it. So this is logically focused, but it's not got keyboard focus, and that's why it's not flashing, and if you type it still doesn't work. So what it's done is made a visual element as if you've got it selected. So the WPF style for when this is selected is to flash this correct, but it's not actually caught the keyboard focus. So the focus manager only really does half the job that we need. So instead of using Focus Manager, we'll just make a simple attach property onto this text box. So if we go to the attach properties, let's just copy and paste the button attach properties. Rename this file to text attach properties. And then we'll make a new attach property that focuses this element on load. And we'll call it is focused. Copy and paste that into there. Override the on value changed. And then inside of here, we just first check that we have a control, because that's we need at least a control to set focus. So if sender is control, we'll call it control. So then we're saying if it's not a control, simply return. So if we don't have a control, return. And then if we do have a control, we can now do control.loaded and listen out for it loading. And then when it does that, we want to simply do control.focus. Focus this control once loaded. And what that will do, the focus of, oh, I thought Windows would give you a description. So they have no documentation on that focus, which is a little bit poor. But anyway, that focus sets keyboard focus and the virtual focus, or logical focus, whatever they call it. And because this is going to happen on load, and because these are loaded in order, sequential order, if we place this focused on this element and on this element, as the loading, this would become focused, then as that loads, this would take control and be focused. So typically we'll only use this once per page, or once per control to, set whichever item you want to be the first keyboard focused item. So just do is focused property.value equals true, and then compile, and that should find and work. Oh yeah, sorry, it's got to be in the local namespace. And there's that. So if we run this, let's try that again. And there you go, you can see emails focused by default, and we can start typing. So that's that part done. The other issue is you've typed email, you've typed the password, you press enter, and nothing happens. That's a really quick fix. So there's something called is default that you can set on controls. That means it's the default enter. Basically the item that's going to get clicked when enter's pressed, and it goes right the way back to Windows Forms days when they used to call it is default and is cancel for dialog boxes, and the default button was the OK and the cancel was the cancel. So it takes its name from many years ago. So is default basically means the button that will be clicked when the user presses enter on the keyboard. So we set that to the login button that's called next button in the comments at the minute. We type something, type, and if we press enter now, you can see it's then had the same effect of pressing the button for us. So that's another little thing fixed. Let's just fix this comment to say login button. Let's load the app. And then the other thing I noticed when we changed the blue for this bubble to look more like the image, this become darker, and as you can see also fades strange. So we want to actually add back this blue value, the original lighter blue that we had here, and set this as the lighter blue and keep that as darker. So we need to first go to colors, which are in styles, colors, and we'll go to the blue. I think it's called light blue, very light blue. So we've got blue, light blue, very light blue, and now we're going to have very, very light blue. So we've got multiple gradients of blue at the moment, which is fine. And what we're going to do with this one is put this back to the original value before we darkened it, and that's going to be ECF6 FB. And now we want to go back to the chat list item control and go to the XAML for that, and then it's the style for the background of this control where we set the color. So you can see very light blue here, so change that to very, very light blue, and the same above here for both animations. And then let's see if that's fixed that issue. So there we go, now we've got the nice lighter blue that goes more accurate here, and then we've got a slightly darker blue, which you wouldn't notice, you wouldn't realise they're two different blues, but they are. So that solves that issue. Then I'd say another issue I noticed was, see how we've right aligned the times here, or left aligned rather, but then on the messages we received they're still left aligned. I think that doesn't look right there being under this arrow, so we're going to right align that time, which is just the stack panel. So that'll be in the chat message list item control, again in the XAML, and it's these two boxes here, which if we just set a background of blue for now so we can see. Oh, they're invisible, but the time is obviously these here, which is this stack panel here, the time container. So let's just get rid of that background. And then the stack panel is not even aligned. Oh, we've aligned the time to the right. Okay, I don't know how we got alignment right in there, but those are doing nothing anyway. So we want to set the horizontal alignment here, binding to the sent by me. The converter is going to be the sent by me to alignment converter, but by default you can see that's the wrong way around. So we're just going to pass in a converter parameter of anything. We'll just say true. And then if we go to that sent by me alignment converter, And we can simply invert this logic. So we'll just say if parameter isn't equal to null, so the default behavior right now is it's null, or in rather, yeah, let's keep that way. So this is a default behavior. Otherwise, we'll just do the opposite. We'll align the opposite way around, so that we can pass in a parameter to the converter to flip, basically like flip the boolean around. So we compile this now. You can see now that fixes that, and we have a right aligned bubble. So there's the overall. We just put a quick background on here. So you can see the bubble has been aligned to, or this section here, the bubble's been aligned to the right with the margin it's got. And then the stack panel inside has been aligned to the left. So if we were to just change the converter parameter to be null, just get rid of it, you'd see it to go the opposite way. So we've basically made a flippable alignment based on a boolean. So it's either going to be left or right. Let's remove that red. And let's run this. And there we go, that's better. So now the time goes on the, the end of each message, and that aligns it correctly. So what's next? Let's see. I think now we want to, I think that's all the issues. Oh, I know actually. The register page also needs the default button. And the same with the email. I want to make sure we do it for both. So is default for true there, and the email wants to have what was it called? Is focused property, was it? True. Let's just check that works. And there we go, that works for the sign off. The enter either doesn't work or we haven't got the register hooked up. So we've got the register. It looks like the animation's potentially not working on that button. Oh, didn't mean to click that. Let's try that again. Okay, so that worked there. What do we actually have going on with the register button? So we do nothing but wait. There's an interesting thing. Okay, so it looks like this is default is not really working, because it's almost like it's taking focus away from the box, and then we've logged in. It's like it's calling the login pages button still. So if we just remove the login page is default on that button, and let's see if that means the register page spins, because that shouldn't be. Yeah, so when we have two as defaults, even though we've removed the login screen, it's still remembering that button in memory. So let's take a quick look at what we do when we swap these pages. Or in fact, the easier thing to confirm that is to go to the login view model. Let's put a breakpoint on the actual login button, so we know that it's going to get hit. And if we go here, type and press enter. Now we're not hitting the login button, but if we press enter again, it seems to be like when it's twice. So pressing enter twice is causing it to hit the login button, which is kind of bizarre because we don't have that login button on screen. And when we do a go to page, what we are doing is setting the current page and current page, and then the page host we are changing the frame should animate out. I'm wondering whether, because we have it inside of a frame and we've animated out, that's the issue. What we need to do is, once this old page is animated out, we need to remove ourselves from the old frame. So what we need to do here is tell old page to animate out. Once it is done, remove it. So we need to task.delay by old page dot, and then do we have the slide seconds? Is that what we use? Time the slide animation should complete. Let's just double check what we used. If should animate out, slide seconds. Yeah, so we want to delay by whatever the time it's going to take to animate out times 1,000, because that's seconds and delay is milliseconds. So time slide seconds float doesn't like the fact that it's a float. So there we go, so we delay by that much, and then once it's done, continue with we then want to say old page frame dot content equals null. And I'm hoping that's enough to fix that issue, and then the register button should, as soon as it's slid out, become the default button. So yeah, we've got to jump back on the UI thread here. Application.current.dispatcher.begin invoke, or have we got invoke yet? So you can't do anything on the UI when you're not on the UI thread, and because we jumped off the UI thread here to delay, we didn't start back on the UI thread. So this just jumps us back to the single UI thread so that we can perform, you know, this action, which is to alter the UI. But at least that shows that was working. It was trying to remove the login page. So as we slide, we should see it fully slide out. We shouldn't see it get removed halfway. So we want to pay attention for when this slides to make sure it is sliding out and then removing. And that was a little bit glitchy. Let's do that again. There we go. So you can see it's still sliding out perfectly fine. And now within the sign up page, we press enter. That's it. Now it's using the register buttons enter, which just spins, and press again, that's fine. Slide out, press enter, and now it's using the correct page. So there was a little bug that we've only caught because we happened to add to is defaults. So that's another problem fixed. Let's just close all these open pages. And let's start the application up once more. So that's the sign in, the register page, all done. I'm happy with that. We've fixed that side menu that was a bit annoying. We fixed the alignment here. Now let's get on to, I guess, making what we plan to do is making this top bar. So that is in the chat page, I think. Now the one other thing, we want to see it really visually in the main window. This is another little annoyance. So this main window, you can see it's animated out, if you will, or it's ready to animate in. Or, well, in fact, no, it's animated out because this page, we have specified that the side menu visible. If we look at the default value, it's false. Oh, sorry, so it's the other way around. It's actually animated out because we've set side menu visible to false by default. Whereas once we load the page changes the side menu visible and logs in. So actually, if we just change then the current page to chat and this to true, I don't think we ever see the page because WPF just isn't smart enough to show, but we can see the side menu. Yeah, so that's actually okay there. I'd just like to ideally see the chat menu here, but the issue WPF has is it cannot dynamically load in pages without the page being a complete root. In fact, there we go, there's the solution. So it's kind of a little hack for now, but so we can visually see while we're designing. We could potentially think it through and do more, but let's at least see if I can just put in a chat page directly in a grid column 1. And you see it just doesn't like to load. So even though we have the chat page in, or is the page host simply over the top of it? Nope. Or maybe do we have nothing on that page? Let's try a login page. No, so it just does not like to show the page at all. Yes, no matter what we do, it just does not like to show a page inside, you know, when you embed a control directly inside. So then you're down to using a frame with a source, I think it is. And that will be, is that just pages login page.xaml? I don't think it's just the string. Let's just try, let's keep it outside of this control for now and just completely comment out the whole code. So this just doesn't seem to like, no matter what you do, it does not like to put a page in there. I'm just wondering whether we even use a page, to be honest, because we are going to do our own navigation. And ooh, a comment screwed things up here. Let's just undo that. So the point of a page is to kind of get all the benefits of, you know, page navigation and the thing we removed anyway. And then we've done a custom control to animate out the pages. I'm in two minds to convert the pages, so even though it's a page, I think we might just convert this to let's give it a quick go. We won't go too far in, we'll just do a quick content. I don't think we even want a content control because we are the page itself. I think we just want a user control. So let's just start with this, let's see what breaks, and let's try and move these to just simple contents. So then we don't have a title, so we can add that afterwards because we don't see the title anyway. So we're quite happy to remove title. Remove that from all three. And that builds. I don't think that's going to work somehow. There's no way that's going to work by just removing page. No, so there we go. So everything goes all messed up there. So now if we're not a page, or did I just screw this up? Oh no, I added a login page there, which now shows. And I also changed the default current page, didn't I? So let's just change that back to login and that hidden. Let's just see if anything's working. So we've lost slide animation. Or we've actually only lost the slide in animation. We've got the slide out. I think that slid in. It's just purely the slide in animation of the page we've lost. So let's go look at the base page. And let's have a look why this may have broke. So I'm guessing it's boiling down to the width, getting the page width. Add slide from right, so element actual width, I'm guessing, is now broken. So that's coming from, you know, our element, which is obviously now a user control. And it's on loaded, which is fine there. So what's happened is we've lost the element's actual width. Let's see if we can get any other width. And it's probably just because we haven't loaded it in yet, whereas a page would have its parent's width. So width is not a number. Now I do remember we did this for, in fact, I think I know what it is. We're now calling a different function because it's now not a page. I think that's what we're doing. We've got an extension property here. So if we go to animations, we had page animation here, or rather the page animations, which was when it was a page, and then we would get the window width. So because we're now not a page, our extension method is instead boiled down to framework element extensions with the exact same name. So we want to give the ability here to override the width, I guess. And we'll do the width of 0, and then we'll say if the width equals 0, we'll do the element width, otherwise we'll pass in the width. And we'll fix that for here and here. In fact, all 4 of those, but once we've proven this one gets fixed. So then if we look at where this is now used, you can see it's in the page. So the animate in, we now want to specify the width to be, and this would have been the window width. So we're going to now have to do application dot, and this is presuming we're always going to load anything that's a base page into the window, even though we could load it anywhere, just for animations to work. So application.current.mainWindow.width, I think maybe will work. It doesn't like double to int. Fine. Int. Now let's see if that's fixed the animate in. And there we go. So that was really painless. I thought that was going to be a lot harder than it was. So now we've got, and it looks like so far everything's working okay. We've completely removed a page, so it's now just a user control. Let's go ahead and fix the other 4 animations in case we use the others, and add a comment. So the animation width to animate out, or animate to. If not specified, the element's width is used. So I'll just copy that comment firstly into all of them. So if you want to copy a complete line like I'm doing here, simply select but don't have anything highlighted, just click somewhere and press Ctrl C, and that will copy your entire line plus the new line. So when you come to paste, it will just paste, you know, nicely on a new line. Then we want to pass in this width property at the end of each function. There we go. And now we want to pass in this logic here. Let's just press F5 and make sure nothing's broke. So that all works. Now, the reason I wanted to get rid of the page, as I started to just sort of talk to myself originally, was because we can't see it in the main window. And I'm thinking this issue here with the main window now is more of, we just need to clean, delete everything, restart Visual Studio to get it to appear. Because there's no details. Page animation, base page, move next, loaded. Okay, so it's the base page underscore loaded. So apparently it's maybe listen out for the loaded and do things. Let's completely comment that out and see if that fixes the issue. And then let's put it back in and make sure that is the issue. Okay, so it's saying something in here, and I know what that's going to be. So the issue now is, I'm guessing it's with this animate in. So if we just comment that out, and it's going to be with that window width we just specified. Yep. So if we then boil down into this, and I'm guessing if we didn't specify this, yeah, so the issue is probably with this statement here to get the width, and this is to animate in. Well, a quick fix, there's probably a way of getting the window width at design time here. I'm not going to bother trying to think of that for now. All I'm going to do is, on the base page loaded, or in fact, yeah, for the animation, let's just say don't bother animating in design time. We're not going to lose much there. You're just not going to see it slide in design time. So I think it's called designer properties, I think. Yep. Designer properties dot get is in design mode, and the sender is this page. That's fine. I think. Cannot convert from dependency. Yes, you can. Well, we're a page anyway. Let's just pass in this. That's fine. So this will say, if we're in design time, then just return. So now if we build, and the animation's still in and this animate in value's still in, so now we don't get an issue here. We're also still not getting the page, but let's just check the application still works at this stage. Yep. So we're getting closer now. So the final thing we need to try and do is get the page to load in here to visually see the page. So let's first check we can actually load the page in, which I'm sure we can now. So let's do, say, login page. And it still doesn't want to show. Okay, let's move it out. Again, I think we might just need to clean Visual Studio, restart and reopen, because we did see it earlier when we were doing this. Or perhaps I think what it might be actually is, does the base page hide itself by default? Did we add that to base page So user control. Here we go. So if it doesn't equal to none, we actually hide the page. So let's move this check of don't bother animating in away from the loaded async and put it into the constructor of the page here. So don't bother animating in design time means it won't do any kind of logic in the constructor. So now if we go back, there we go. Now we can see the page. So we can delete this login page we know now works. Or in fact we could leave it there and place it in grid.column1 to see. So you can see that we can now see the page, which we couldn't before, to try and get some nice visual. So the final step to this is to get this page host to load the current page. So let's take a look now at the page host. And I think it's all mostly code behind, but let's say we've got a frame here, and that's probably why. The frame is generally designed to show a page. So we probably want to change this to, I don't know whether a content control would work, or in fact let's add one in addition for the moment just to test this. And I can't even think how we would add, what's it going to be, maybe x static login page, nope. Add presentation, I don't think that's it. Binding, I think we need two in order to do this. Well actually it obeys constructors anyway, so let's just change this to content control. We don't need the no frame history anymore because we're not going to use a frame, because we're not going to load a page. Let's first see if that will build, which it will. We also look like we've lost the animation again there. Oh no, we didn't. So it animates in. So that still works when we've got rid of the frame, but we're still not seeing a page there. We're still not seeing a page there. So let's see the code behind. The constructor does this, the current page property change. So maybe just the current page property isn't firing. So let's just check. Throw new argument null exception test. And let's just see if the designer will crash. So the designer is not running that code because if we were to move this into, say, here and build, we should find that the UI designer complains like that. So we know for a fact it's not running the current page property changed in design time, which is kind of an issue. Well, it is and it isn't. So what we can do is, we know that at design time we just want to get the current page. So the old page, the new page, swaps over, should animate out, and then basically the whole point is it does new frame content is the content passed in. Oh, and then we use current page. Oh, so we actually set the page. So where do we set this? I think we're doing it in binding, aren't we? Where did we set this page? I can't even remember. Let's just run this and see where it is. I know it's in binding somewhere we did this. Apparently we're not getting any hits. Right, so we start up the main window, it initializes, and then the current page property, it's bound in the window obviously, isn't it, where we bind. the page host here. So that's where we get set. So we've got the current page, and then we use a converter to convert it to the application page. So the application page value converter, we want this logic for ourselves in the design time. We want to run this exact code to, get a page to set at design time. So we can just create a new instance of this if it's in design mode. So let's go back to the page host. I know this seems like a lot of work, but the benefit here then is we can get a nice visual, complete visual of what the application's like as we're developing it, which is really what we want. So the same again here. If designer properties dot get is in design mode with this page. So if we're in design time, or if we are in design mode, show the current page as the dependency property does not fire. So if we're in design mode, then we want to get this page dot new page dot content. So in fact we want to probably do this on potentially when it's loaded, but let's try here, and for now let's just do is new login page just to check this is working, and build. We don't need this, and there we go, we can see the login page. So now we'd say, instead of it being the login page, we want it to be the application page value converter, or in this case a new instance of one, and dot convert, and we're going to get back a base page. So cast that to base page, and it's going to expect, if we pop into that, a value of application page. So we know that is going to be the ioc.get application view model dot current page, and then it wants a type, which we ignore anyway, parameter we ignore, and culture we ignore. So I wonder if we can just pass in defaults here. Without breaking the override. Looks like we can. So now that will take the current page that we've specified in the view model, convert it to a base page, and set it to a new page content just for the designer, I think. So has that worked? Maybe. So now we need to check by changing the current page from login. In fact, that's kind of broke. I've just noticed that's still visible. Yeah, that's decided to show all of a sudden when it wasn't before. We'll have to fix that. So we change this to, well, change this to say the chat, and compile. We should see the chat page now, which we still don't. So I think this is actually just stuck and isn't updating at the moment, because there's no reason why that would show the login page. So I'm just going to clean everything and build, and if that doesn't work, we're going to do a complete, oh, there we go. So that was a slow update, and then it flickered and worked. So now you can see it's hidden the side menu, which is what we set, and it's updated the chat page, the page to chat. So we can change that back to true, and then rebuild. And you'll find that with WPF sometimes. I mention it a lot, but sometimes the UI is really slow to update. You have to forcefully clean your solution and rebuild, and even that sometimes doesn't work. Then you have to open your actual solution folder. And I've just changed back to the light theme for the moment. It'll go back in the other video. and you'd have to go to, say, your source folder, and you'd delete the bin and object, close Visual Studio, delete the bin and object folders, reopen Visual Studio, clean your solution, and then rebuild again, and then this updates. So you do get this in WPF sometimes, that it just don't always believe if it's not showing here that the code's wrong. So now we have a complete updated UI where we can see everything we're doing in the whole window, nice and visually. And then if we started the application, we should start at that point as well. And there you go, so it matches exactly what we should be seeing. So we'll finally now get down to the point of what we wanted to do in this video, which was this header bar. And that is going to be in the chat page, which is not actually a page anymore, but it's fine because it's a page to us. It's you know, a page in our application, if you will. And here is the current chat page. And right now we've just got a border, and we want to add a stack panel. So the border's there for no real reason, so let's just change that to a stack panel. Now we want to have or do we want a stack panel? No, we want a grid, sorry, because we want this to expand the remainder of the size. So we'll do grid, and then grid dot row definitions. Row definition, the first one. Height is going to be auto, which is going to be that bar we're going to create, the title bar. And the other row height is going to fill the remainder. And then we're actually going to have one below that for the this write message thing when we get around to doing that. So that's ready for that. This control moves to the second row, which is number 1. Name these chat list, title bar, chat send text box, something like that. So we've got the chat list. Now we want to add the actual header here. So that's just going to be a grid with 2 columns. We'll have this one spanning both, so it's central. So we'll have another grid. That grid is in row 0 by default, so that's fine. Then we want a text box, text equals, and we'll just fill it in with general information for now. Font or foreground will change to the white. Font size will change to, I don't know, let's try extra large. Still looks small, but I'm zoomed out at the minute. Horizontal alignment, we want central. This grid, as we mentioned, wants 2 columns. Width of the first is just whatever it needs, well, the maximum amount. And the other column is going to be just what it needs. So this is going to be the auto. That's in column 1, which is fine. As soon as we add another column, which we will make with a stack panel for stacking the buttons, the same as the side menu control. So we just pinch this design for the moment, which is here, main buttons. Paste that in here. Move it to grid.column 1. Delete a few of those at the minute. And see if this builds. Looks like we've got some kind of issue with I'm guessing it must be the button style, because that's all we've done so far is the button style. It looks like the designer broke. I think we have an issue with the icon button style. Let me just remove that and try again, and then we can look into that. Reload. Yeah, so there's something up with the icon button style. Let's not put that back in for the moment. I've got a feeling it's something to do with height because that's not square now. So let's go and... Oh, in fact, I know what that will be actually. If we look at the style for the buttons and the icon button, we do a width of actual height, and we are in a grid with, let me get this right, this grid is inside this grid. So this grid is in row 0, and row 0's height is whatever it wants to be. And then this is within that. So effectively what we have right now is there is no set height. And we've got a style that tries to bind to the actual height, which there is none at the moment. So I think it's causing a kind of issue with an infinite height item. So let's at least start with, let's just make this grid a fixed height of say 50 for now. And we can zoom that in so we can get more of a perspective. And let's put the style back on. And that hasn't crashed this time, so that's okay for the moment. So let's get back to where we were firstly. Let's start commenting this before it gets too messy. So this first one here is title bar. This is title text inside of that, and this is, well, main buttons is fine, and that's the chat list. We want that to be vertically aligned as well, central. There we go. Let's just get a general feel for this. Let's just run the application. Or we could have just looked at the main window designer actually, but there's that. That looks okay. We want the text thicker, I think. But let's also check out the, close a load of these. We should now be able to look at the design in here. So there you go. That's the benefit now. We don't have to run the application. We can just change the, say, text here. And you'll have to just build, but you don't have to run. And this should update. So you're getting the benefit now of all that work we did to be able to visually see the whole application. So back to this part. Change that back. Let's add a few more buttons. And you can see this is actually, this writing now is no longer central to the whole page. You can see it's like offset over here, so we want to span this. Oops, I didn't mean to restart, I meant to stop. Let's span this title bar across all the columns, so column span of 2. That didn't work. Does it just need compiling? Okay, why is that not working? Oh, hang on, I've specified the wrong part. The title bar is, that's the entire thing as one. It's the title text we want to span. There we go. The other thing I've noticed, these buttons are, they've actually got a blue background. So what that's going to do is, you can see it's chopping off part of the background here, where we would have, you know, the items underneath, so you can see it really obvious there. So let's change this to transparent. Let's go to the we haven't got it to open. Go to the button style, icon button. Background right now is that. We want to change it to transparent. It's not an empty string. I don't know why it's complaining. And that worked until we hovered, and but we've got a kind of white Yeah, it worked until we hovered, and the first one seemed a bit white. So let's change the animation. So it's animating to light blue. Change that to transparent. And I think we're going to have to make a transparent blue. So there you can see it's transparent. We hover, and it's all kind of messed up with. Yeah, it does not like that at all. But you can see this white. What it's doing is it's fading. Transparent is actually, you can have a transparent color. You know, you can have so much transparency in a color, and it's called ARGB. So transparent color is actually a white transparent. We want to make, I guess this, we would fade into light blue, and we were originally blue. So we want to change, we want a transparent blue brush. So let's call it transparent blue. Let's go to the brushes, which is in colors. And then it's word background, yeah, blue brush, word blue brush. So it's this, copy and paste this one, call it word transparent blue. And then at the start is the transparency. Let's make it, I think it's 00 for the invisible. And then let's specify, well, that's now already specified, transparent blue. And then we have, when you leave, it fades to transparent blue. And it wasn't the brush, it was just the transparent blue. So let's try that. So it's transparent, and there we go, that's actually working nice now. So what we've got now is, it's transparent by default, and let's check these still work. Yep. Transparent by default, and now it works when we've got a background, and when you hover it'll then get filled with colour. I think we'll also, let's try making this background transparent here, so this background follows through. That might look nice, like this top menu, with just seeing this, you know, solid colour, but then a background here. We can always change it, but let's give that a quick go. That will be the side menu control, XAML. This thing we want to change to, it's inside the style. Background is blue. Let's just change that to, well, if we just delete it, it'll be transparent. Or not. Oh, the above is white, so move the background from the main border away and style the content presenter. So we'll have to wrap the content presenter in a border to give it a background. And then we'll have to move the grid row specifying to the border itself. So we're going to basically make this white, but the side menu title bar transparent, so we should now see the background through. And there we go, so that looks quite cool. I quite like that. You can change that if you don't like that and just add a background colour, or maybe even a partial background colour, but I quite like that, so we'll leave it as that for now, and then you get the whole background flowing right the way through. Oh, we were going to make this text bold, weren't we? So let's do that. Chat page, text block, font family. I think regular's like, you know, bold enough. There we go. And then these menus, well, we have on ours a search icon and an ellipsis icon. So if we remember what we did with these, if you look at the content, we specified font awesome chat icon strings, so we need 2 more. We want a search icon and a ellipsis icon. Ellipsis V for ellipsis vertical, actually. Ellipsis vertical icon. Then if you go to, I think it's Font Awesome cheat sheet it's called. Font Awesome cheat sheet. So fontawesome.io/cheat sheet. You'll see all of the icons. We want a search icon, which is here. So you can see there's the icon we want. We zoom in, nice and big. Go to search. You can see here search icon, and it's F002. So if we go to here and change the search icon 002, and then we want like a vertical ellipsis, which is, should spot one. If not, we'll just do a search. I'm guessing they'll call it ellipsis or dot. Ah, there we go. Yeah, so ellipsis V, we want this dot. So it's 142. So change that to 142. Now we want to use these icons. The first one there is search, and then the other one is ellipsis. And we press F5, and let's see what this looks like now. And there we go, that looks pretty much exactly the same as the original Photoshop. So I'm pretty pleased with that. I'd say that's pretty accurate. So that got us the title bar, some buttons ready to do stuff with. We also did a lot of cleanup there. So if we just go back to the current page, change that back to login, change this back to false. One of the major benefits we got was now if we compile, the actual main Windows YAML will completely update and show us the real page, whereas before we couldn't see the page. So we turned everything into just a user control instead of a page. We added on startup, we focused the text box. We added a default button when you press enter to log in. We fixed an issue with the page host not removing this control. It simply slid out, and then when we were at this page and pressed enter, it was calling the previous page's button. So that sort of fixed that issue as well. Then we made this transparent because that looks cool. We did this title bar here. We fixed the alignment of this text here. We fixed the light blue color here. So just a lot of cleanup things that, you know, a lot of people would just ignore and keep going. But as you'll see as we go, I like to make sure everything stays really clean. So as much as you want to rush forward and do, you know, other things, you really want to stay on top of anything that starts looking not quite right and make the time to fix it. So this is now back to, you know, exactly as we want it to be. The next video, I was going to do the scroll bar, but this video is taking longer than expected. So the next video, it'll be short, I think, probably half an hour, and we'll style scroll bars and make them look really nice and, again, blue and faded and blend in with the application. And then this'll look really clean then. So hopefully this video was enjoyable again. Any comments, let me know, and I'll see you soon.